Well, hi everybody, and welcome to another encouragement from the Psalms. And today we're in Psalm 55. Psalm 55. And what I want to say about Psalm 55 from the outset is David knew what it was to suffer. So if you're a person who is suffering, going through a really hard time, going through a painful time or a time where you feel betrayed or whatever you're experiencing, let me tell you, you have got a friend in King David. This is a psalm, and remember where it says a maskil, as it does in the introduction here. That's a kind of teaching psalm, a teaching psalm. What does it say? Give ear to my prayer, O God, hide not yourself from my plea of mercy. So he needs help here. Attend to me and answer me. Why? Because I am restless in my complaint and I moan. Moan. Have you ever been in so much pain that your prayer is more like a groan or a moan? Well, that's what David is experiencing here because of the noise of the enemy. The noise of the enemy coming against him. Because of the oppression of the wicked. For they drop trouble upon me. Now, the word here for drop is like an avalanche, okay? So it's not like one bit of trouble smacks him coming down the mountain. It's just coming and coming and coming like an avalanche. They're avalanching trouble upon me. And in anger, they bear a grudge against me. My heart is in anguish within me. The terrors of death have fallen upon me. He's living in constant fear of his life. Fear and trembling come upon me, and horror overwhelms me. Now, David is in a state here, isn't he? He's terrified, he's horrified, he's overwhelmed, he feels like there's an avalanche of trouble coming against him. And what do we do when we feel fearful? Well, as human beings, we have a fight or a flight. And, you think David fought Goliath when nobody else would. David, Saul killed his thousands, David his tens of thousands. You think, David, what a mighty hero, man after God's own heart. He'll surely fight. Well, verse 6, oh, that I had the wings like a dove. I would fly away and be at rest. Yes, I would wander far away. I would lodge in the wilderness. I would hurry to find a shelter from the raging wind and tempest. David would love to get out of this situation. He would love to be in flight. And folks, can I just encourage you that if you're feeling that way right now, you just wish you could fly away, get out of this. Well, can I encourage you that Elijah, he actually did fly away. He just ran. He had that amazing moment on the top of the mountain with all the prophets of Baal, and God threw the fireball down from heaven and made him victorious. But the next day, Jezebel threatened him, that queen, and said, you're going to be dead by the morning. And he ran, he flew as far as he could go. Just went and went and went. And he flew away like a dove. Jeremiah constantly felt like doing that, but he didn't. He resisted it. At the cross, basically everybody flew away and left Jesus in terror. And of course, when we read, I think it's 2 Timothy, Paul, at his trial, he wrote, everybody abandoned me. Everybody flew away. And it was just me on my own to face the music. If that's what you feel like doing, you're in good company. To fly away and just get out of the situation. And then David does move into a sort of fight mode because he prays that God would just destroy his enemies. Okay? But what I want you to notice between verses 9 and 15 is that, and this isn't common to every psalm, but in this psalm, I think David treads quite a beautiful line. Because the beautiful line he treads is, he wants, in his address to God, he speaks about an individual who's betrayed him, an individual with a kind of grief that he's been betrayed by this person that he loved. But when he's speaking about the kind of those that are throwing the avalanche of abuse over him, the kind of company of enemies, he speaks in anger. So grief against the individual, anger against the avalanche. And I want to encourage you, and if you can put this into the political realm, and wherever you want to put it into, or something you're dealing with personally, can I encourage you, don't hate the individual. That, because all that does is damages your own heart. Don't hate the individual. Hate the tendency. Hate the avalanche. Maybe you're dealing with maybe there's somebody out there dealing with a partner who's betrayed you. Well, it's so difficult not to hate that individual, but all that will do is ruin your heart. And it's not what God wants for you. He wants you to be on a journey of being able to forgive that individual. They'll be grieving, but can I encourage you not to hate them? Can I encourage you to go on that journey so you don't hate them? But if you want to hate the tendency of unfaithfulness, then you should. Like at the moment, there's somebody in the news today who's getting loads and loads and loads of criticism because they completely just flouted lockdown rules when they should have known better. And what people are writing online and stuff is really hatred of the individual. Can I just encourage you, hate the tendency of people to think that they are above the rules, but try and hold on to the fact that this person is a person made in the image of God, and try and just control what you say about that individual as much as you can hate the tendency and the avalanche of these things. That's what I think David really helps us with, because look at verse 12. We'll see how personal this actually is. For it is not an enemy who taunts me, then I could bear it. It is not an adversary who deals insolently with me, then I could hide from him. Okay, so it's not a Goliath, a kind of giant from a different country. It's somebody closer than that. It's not an enemy that's against him. It says in verse 13, but it is you, a man, my equal, my companion, my familiar friend. This is somebody who David would have considered a friend, a faithful, familiar friend, an equal, a companion. And listen at verse 14. We used to take sweet counsel together. This is a person that David must have sat up late at night just talking about life with, trying to figure stuff out, trying to, just tease things out in company, maybe over, cup of tea or whatever they drank in the ancient world. This is somebody who he shared sweet counsel with. And listen to this. Within God's house, we walked in the throng. He worshipped with this person. Like, it would be easy if this enemy was a faceless somebody from another place. But this is somebody who David spent significant time with, considered a friend, and even worshipped and prayed with. He's brokenhearted. You can imagine it. And then David moves to the company or the tendency or the avalanche, and he prays God's wrath and judgment over them. And then verse 16 is a beautiful little turn, but he says, but I called to God, and the Lord will save me. Evening and morning and at noon, I utter my complaint and moan, and he hears my voice. Isn't it lovely to know that God even hears our moans? If you've ever, and I don't think this isn't encouraging us to be a moaner, okay, and just being, a negative person. But what it's encouraging us to do is, even when we can't make the words because we're so brokenhearted, God can understand our moan. He hears my voice. And listen to the rhythm of David's prayer. Evening. In Hebrew thought the day starts with the evening. So evening and morning and noon, I utter my complaint and moan 3 times a day. David's in a rhythm of prayer, even in this painful time. Are you in a rhythm of prayer? Big question for us all. And then here it is. He redeems my soul in safety from the battle that I wage, for many are arrayed against me. God will give ear and humble them. He who is enthroned from of old, because they do not change, they do not fear God. Now here's a really interesting verse. David is trusting in God because he has been enthroned from of old. God is enthroned forever. He's enthroned forever. And it says, he's going to humble these people because they do not change. Here's the reality. If we're in a standoff between us and God, waiting for him to change, he's not changing. Okay? It's either we change or we're in difficulty with them. And David's saying, these people, they're not changing and they don't fear him. But he's the one who's never changed. He's always enthroned. It's like a wee story of an old man and his family come to visit him. And they're sitting talking to their old dad and granddad for ages. And something's really annoying them because he's brushing the cat, which is on its knee. He's brushing the fur up the wrong way. Okay, so the cat's just getting bigger and bigger and bigger because he's brushing the cat up the wrong way. And the son of this old man says, Daddy, you're brushing that cat the wrong way. And the old man says, well, the cat better turn around then. Okay, in other words, I'm not changing. This is what I'm doing. If the cat wants its fur brushed the right way, it better turn around. God doesn't turn. And these enemies are not changing, so they're going to be humbled, is what David's essentially saying. And listen to David going back talking about this friend again. My companion stretched out his hand against his friends. He violated his covenant. His speech was as smooth as butter, yet war was in his heart. His words were softer than oil, yet they were drawn swords. I mean, folks, maybe you're in a position where you've been so betrayed that you feel like there's nobody you can trust anymore. I mean, the person who you thought loved you and you thought loved them, loved you. You know, you'd say that, you know, their speech was so smooth, but yet their heart was the opposite, and their words were softer than oil. Like oil helps you, but actually it was like a sword. Maybe you feel that way. Well, here's my encouragement to you. Verse 22, one of the most beautiful verses in the Bible. Cast your burdens on the Lord, and he will sustain you. He will never permit the righteous to be moved. See that God who's on that throne of old? You cast your burdens on him, and he will sustain you. And he'll heal you, and he'll never permit you to be moved. Like, I think that's such an encouragement to us. And cast your burden. It reminds me of a really special story to me, which is the story of Hannah. And remember, she goes up to the sanctuary, and she's brokenhearted. She's got this enemy who's her husband's other wife, and she's tormenting her because she can't have a child. And Hannah goes up to the sanctuary, and she just prays and prays and prays and brings her offering and prays. And it tells us there's no sound, she's just moving her lips. And, you know, she walks away from that situation happy in the Lord. I mean, she's cast her burden onto the Lord, and he gave her some sustenance. Can I encourage you to do the same? Like, casting our burden, it's got kind of two forces. They cast their cloaks onto the donkey, when Jesus was riding into Jerusalem on Palm Sunday. They cast their cloaks on the donkey. The donkey carried their cloaks. You can cast your burdens onto the cross of Jesus Christ. Like a cloak over a donkey, you can just cast it over the cross. Or maybe it's a bit more like how a boat casts its anchor down. And all of their security in that storm relies on where they have thrown that anchor down into the bedrock of the ocean. Cast your anchor down, even when the storm rages around you, and there's still enemies against you, and the avalanche is still coming. Cast your anchor into the bedrock of the ocean. It actually, folks, for me, the image that I had was, imagine there's a mountain climber, and imagine he looks up and he sees this avalanche coming, and so he gets one of those pickaxes and he sticks it in to the rock, and he holds on for dear life, and the avalanche is still roaring past them, but he's casting every hope and trust in that pickaxe into the rock face. Well, do that, folks. Do that to the Lord. Cast your burden on the Lord, and he will sustain you. Folks, if you're struggling, you've got a friend in King David. But his encouragement to you is cast your burden unto the Lord, and he will care for you and sustain you. In Jesus' name, I hope that was helpful. Amen.